Hey everybody, Dogbear here, back in DC Worlds Collide, doing the top 10 characters you can reasonably acquire as a free-to-play, newer player, or mid-game player. Obviously, if you're a huge whale or kraken, you're going to be getting some of the characters I'm going to be excluding from this list, which is essentially these first four: Superman, uh, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Dr. Fate. Reason being, these are legendary characters. They are incredibly hard to get. The pull rate is 1% on the rainbow colored tokens you get. If you didn't know about this, you click on the little eye and go to champion recruitment. You see your elite character or purple is 94.5%, epic character or gold 4.5%, and legendary is 1%. And then on top of that, legendary, if you got a legendary, it would be one of these six characters. So I'm excluding Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Dr. Fate. If you get one of those characters, by all means, level them up and use them. They are absolutely fantastic. Uh, as far as which one of those is the best in the game, depends on where you're at. For a newer player, beginner who doesn't care about arena as much, Wonder Woman. If you're a later game player who does care about arena, Flash is the best. It's just simply how that goes. Lex Luthor, I will include in my list because, spoiler alert, he's on my list because he is easy to obtain because he can be obtained outside of this pool. And Cyborg, well, he's Cyborg. He really shouldn't be legendary, but he is. Not that good. Sorry. All right, so let's move on to who the characters who I rank in order. We'll start out with number 10. Is actually this guy. A lot of characters on this list, including work well together when they are on it. Work best when they're with certain other characters or on a team. The characters towards the top of the list can work more independently, but still prefer our team, obviously, or work with somebody else. So we'll start off with Robin here. Why is this Robin Damian? This is the Damian Wayne or the Epic or Gold version of Robin. There's another Robin. There's a purple version. That's Red Robin. That's I forget which Robin that is. There's too many damn Robins. So anyway, so why is Damian Wayne number 10? Well, if you look at his skills, it really comes down to his ultimate. What he does is, so wherever you place him across from, you should be placing him in the back row, whoever he's across from, when his ultimate goes off, he's going to attack whoever he's across from and hit them 3 times. The basic is 110% of his attack. I have him at a little upgraded, so he's at 125%, but he's going to hit 3 times for that amount. He can take out somebody in that back row if they're a weaker character. So this is good for, getting rid of maybe an annoying Black Canary, a Kid Flash. Who else is annoying? Any kind of DPS, a Constantine, a Green Arrow, somebody you just need to get rid of. On top of all this, he actually does have his own little tactical renaissance as well. So if you're using him, you need a tactical renaissance. This is another one. You need a support character. Doesn't matter who the support character is. And you need a DPS character. There's tons of good DPS characters. You'll probably pair him up with somebody anyway. Of course, if you do use his tactical renaissance, I'm at 9%. It goes up to 12%. But what he does is during the first 2 turns of a battle, back row allies deal 18% more damage to enemy back row targets. Essentially, he's buffing himself. So another character that might work well with him would be like a Mirror Master or Poison Ivy, even. Of course, Poison Ivy needs Scarecrow, but that's another story. Rest of his skills, he just does basic damage here on his basic. His advanced, sometimes it's called stunt. He just attacks. Unfortunately, it's random. You don't get. It would be nicer if he just attacked back row or something like that. And his passive increases damage dealt to targets with more than 65% by 25%. Again, this is where it comes into where he can just take somebody out right at the beginning because they're going to be 100% hit points. So that's when you want to use Robin. But he also works well with the next character on this list, obviously, with the Tactical Renaissance, and that's Batman, number 9 for me. Batman is a great character, actually, in this game. He's not really used in the arena meta right now. Just other characters have eclipsed him. And the problem is he is a single target DPS. Whereas Damian is great for taking out somebody in the back row, the Batman's a great tank killer, actually. The reason being his ultimate here, he attacks an enemy 4 times. Right now I have him ranked up, so he's at 105% damage. This goes up to 120% damage later on. And on top of that, if the target has for each debuff, the damage increases even more, up to a maximum of 30%. So this is where you want somebody with debuffs out there who goes before him. He's not the fastest character, that's for sure. His ultimate does take a little bit of time to get going, but until then he's pretty good. His basic, he attacks an enemy 2 times. I have it up to 70% damage. That's as far as it goes. He has the Batarang, which hits an entire row of enemies. So more than likely this will be the front row. That's why he does great damage. In his passive, he increases attack by 20%. Each attack adds a stack of defense break, which is kind of like a defense down if you're coming from Marvel Strike Force, to get an idea. But he's always adding that. So when you add this on with his original, this is why he can take out a tank very quickly. He also has his tactical renaissance here. His is a little bit more filtered or restrained, in that you need a character with single target burst. Obviously, here's Damian. He's on number 1 on the list. Nightwing also works well. Characters you would expect him. You need actually 2 of those total. So like Nightwing is your tank, Damian in the DPS, and boom, you have your tactical renaissance. And he increases the single target burst characteristic by 9%. Again, here's Damian. With his abilities, he'll get increased as well, depending how quick you want to take him out or how long the battle's going to be. That might be this choice between Damian or Batman's tactical renaissance, and depending on the team comp you're using. But that's why Batman is falling at number 9. Before the other characters came in with the big OAs, he was much more prevalent in the arena meta, but he's kind of fallen off now. Number 8, I'm going to go with Gorilla Grodd. This is an amazing tank, actually. He works well on a variety of teams. He especially works well with Poison Ivy and her team. And the reason being is his skills. His ultimate, he uses telepathy on the enemy back row, hitting 80%. He's one of the characters that can hit the back row immediately. But he also knocks back action bar or speed bar by 25%, so he's knocking that back. And on top of that, he's adding slow and weaken. Weaken is like an offense down, best way to describe it, if you're coming from Marvel Strike Force. On top of that, then, as you can see, I have him ranked up. Now, if the target has 4 or more control effects, he knocks back an additional action bar effect, increases by 15%, eventually goes to 35%. His basic actually is quite good too. He adds a stack of defense break or defense down to a character by doing some damage. He can be very tanky, especially at higher levels, very hard to kill because of this. The other problem is when the other thing he does is when he takes damage for somebody with debuff. This is why he works great with a Poison Ivy Scarecrow team, because Scarecrow right away goes and puts out that poison. Poison Ivy puts out poison too, obviously. That's a debuff. So when he takes damage from those dealers, he gets 5% damage red for his next attack, and then it increases to 55%, and eventually it increases to 8% once you get him up. His passive, again, when he's attacked, he's a 30% chance of adding a random debuff already inflicted to the damage dealer, so that means he could increase the, defense down type, defense break, something, or slow, doesn't matter what it is. Again, this is an incredibly annoying. I have him up to 40, he eventually goes to 50. It'd be nicer if this was like 75, 100%, something like that. That would make him even better, but he's pretty damn good as he is. Number 7, this is a character who gets much better later in the game and more built up he is, and that is Green Arrow. The reason being, it comes down to his emblem, actually, a lot of it. If you don't know what the emblems are, they increase in abilities, they increase some stats, depending on the character. I don't think every single epic character currently has one. They've been adding them every patch. But if you look at it, the first level, once you get the emblem completed, I can go in here, you can see I have to go through all that using these metals. If you look at, he gets additional crit rate. This is a character you do want a crit set on, more than likely, or crit on him. And then the hit point percentage threshold, the double crit rate decreases to 40%, and then eventually his crit rate increases crit rate by 10%, by an additional 10% when attacking enemies with hit point higher above 40%. The crit damage of the skill is doubled. Obviously, tons of crit damage. This is why he can end up putting out a ton of damage at higher levels, but he does need to be built up. As you can see, his ultimate, he's hitting 3 times for 40, 40, 75 at the beginning, then it becomes 45, 45, 80, and then eventually 50, 50, 85. That's a lot of damage once he starts getting built up and he starts hitting for crits. It gets even more. Even his basic hits pretty hard once he gets up to higher levels and he's built up. But the problem is, of course, you have to build him up that high. He doesn't hit as hard in the early game when you first get him until you really start leveling him up to get these big damage increases. He increases crit by 15% in crit damage, and crit doubles when the enemy hit point is above 50%. So that also increases crit damage. So you can see he's just an incredibly good character. Highly underrated. He's actually quite easy to get. If you don't pull him, spend $1 on any purchase, on your first purchase, and you'll get him. So I always suggest spending $1. If you're buying something else in the game, it doesn't matter. You'll get him as well. That's a little first purchase bonus. He also has a tactical renaissance. You need a character of AoE. Oh look, Constantine, Jessica Cruz, great characters. Wonder Woman and Superman. You need 2 of those characters to activate his. And he does essentially what Batman does for single target burst, but he does for AoE instead, increasing that. Number 6 is actually Zentana. She used to be higher on my list, but now she's a little bit lower. She did get nerfed recently in the last patch before I made this video. And what I'm talking about is her, let's see, her lifesteal here on her passive got reduced down to 6%. It becomes 8%. This used to be like 12%. Let me double check real quick. I'll tell you what it used to be. There was a lot. It used to be at 12%. So she got reduced by a lot, half. This is half of what it used to be. As you see, I do have her ranked up, so I do get 10% for each stack of Frantic now. And I have the increased at 8% on the basics here. But that's one of the reasons why she's so good, is just her passive, just being on the team, gives everybody that lifesteal, which allows them to really survive, especially if you have big AoE DPS, like Constantine, Green Arrow. They're going to heal up a lot when they hit because of how much damage they're doing. Her ultimate's actually pretty good too. She hits an entire enemy row and adds defense break or defense down if you're coming from the Marvel Strike Force world. As you can see here, defense decreases defense by 20% and crit resistance by 5% up to a max of 15%. And she's adding 2 stacks of that, so you're getting 40 and 10 right away when you use her ultimate. Her ultimate is also only a 2 energy, so you can use this quite often if you're okay with this. And you see I've already ranked her up. So now on top of all that, she also dispels 2 buffs if they have any buffs on them. So this is what makes her such a great character. Her basic is just do damage. Unfortunately, that's all it is. Her special, advanced, whatever you want to call it, she's granting all allies essentially a strong attack or offense up. I have it up to 2 turns. Strong attack increases attack by 8% and block break by 5%, up to a max of 15 stacks. And she gives the ally the ally with the highest attack 2 stacks of Frantic. This is usually like a Constantine or a Green Arrow. Could be Jessica Cruz though too as well. That increases crit by 10% per stack, so that's an extra 20% crit. You can see why she's still on this list, but has dropped down a little bit because of that little bit of a nerf. Number 5, Kid Flash. He is an amazing single target healer. He has a tactical renaissance as well. You need a DPS and a tank character, something you should probably have anyway. If you're using his tactical renaissance, you're going to get a 20% healing bonus. If you look at his skills, obviously his ultimate, he heals whoever the lowest health is 4 times, equal to 85% of his attack. So you're looking for attack gear along with healing bonus gear on him as well. Kind of a weird setup. And he also gives that target shelter, which is kind of like a defense up if you're coming from Marvel Strike Force world. His basic is just essentially damage, but he also gets a stack of haste for 2 turns, and it just speeds him up, making him go faster. Obviously, he's Kid Flash. Makes sense. His advanced ability is a single target heal, 195% of attack again, so this is why you want to attack on him. I have him ranked up, so he's giving them recover, which is like a heal over time. And then eventually, once you get him up to rank 10, he'll grant himself and whoever that ally is haste, essentially a speed up. As you can see, it's an increased speed by 5%. His passive, when he heals, he increases healing applied to target with less than 50% hit points by 50%, and then grants them sturdy armor, kind of a defense up type thing. Increases defense by 20% in crit, and then you can see the heal bonus goes up. That's what makes him such a good, the best healer in the game right now. So that's why he's on this list. Number 4 is actually Nightwing. Probably the best tank outside of Superman. Fairly easy to get, being an epic. The reason he is such a good character is actually in his passive here. Increases block by 20%. When he blocks for the first time, he gains shelter. And shelter decreases the damage taken from the next attack by 50%, and he gets a stack of that for 2 turns. So, but essentially, because he's tank, he's probably going to get hit a couple times. And you can see here, this is another character where you have to build him up to at least rank 8, rank 9 preferable, to get this up to a 30% block rate. And you're going to obviously want a block set on him. As you can see here, I use the 4-piece block set along with a couple heal. You can see my base block right now is 44%. And then you add on his passive here, you can see I'm up to about a 74% chance to block whenever he gets hit. And then I will get shelter, which means the next attack will be reduced by 50%. On top of that, when he does take damage, he has a chance to shock the enemy, but again, this increases to an 80% chance when blocking, and the damage increases to 80% as well. And normally he does 70%, if the damage is blocked, it's only a chance increase 60%, and eventually once you get him to rank 10, increases to 90% and 100% chance when blocking. His wingdings, his basic is just deal physical damage. So that's very basic. His ultimate, he actually has a good ultimate because he does have a 60% chance of rending stun. For each, I have him ranked up, so for each buff of a different type he has, the chance of stun increases by 10%. So if he's got like a speed, a frantic, stuff like that, he'll go up more. And then he increases the firm stand rows gained by, and then front row owls get a firm stand, which is increasing block again by 10%. So when his ultimate goes off, he gets an additional buff that gives him even more block, which in my case would put him up to 84% with just 1 stack of it. And of course he can then stun as well, but he only has a chance to stun, kind of like a Bane, but he's a little bit better because of that block. So that's why Nightwing's on this list and why he's so high. Number 3 is actually a character who wasn't as good as he used to be, or as he is now, I should say. Sorry. And that's Lex Luthor. He is the only legendary on the list who's easy to obtain because you can obtain him through character fusion. I'm going to that in a second. But looking at Luthor, why has he gotten so good? Why is his stock rising? It's because of Jessica Cruz. Honestly, because of the shielded effect. But he's always been a great character because of his shields. And he just recently got a buff on top of this. So you can see here, the basic is he has a sword that can deal equal to 16% of max hit points for 2 turns. He also dispels a debuff. That's quite nice. I've ranked him up. So now I'm up to 18%. I'm dispelling 2 debuffs. And eventually, once you get to rank 10, it's 20%. Another thing with Legendaries, they actually have 5 abilities instead of just 4 and Epic. His basic is nothing special. It just deals some physical damage. Eventually, he gets Cloak, which blocks the next incoming, kind of like an immunity, so he doesn't get a debuff. His advanced skill, he calls the ally with the highest attack to use a basic attack. He'll essentially get an assist. And there's a 25% base. He'll call somebody else as well to use their basic attack. I've ranked him up, so he's up to a 30%. Plus, he's giving strong attack out, which is a lot better. And then it eventually increases to 35%. He's got the passive. When he's actually got 2 passives. When using basic attacks, if Lex Luthor does not have a shield, he'll give himself a shield that can absorb damage equal to 9% of his max hit points. If he has a shield, he invites the ally with the highest attack again to assist him in battle. He keeps calling for an assist. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage himself. He's not made to. He's a tank. Whenever his allies use a basic attack, he gains. He charges armor, gaining 10% damage red, up to a maximum of 40%. Eventually, that becomes 12%. This isn't as great. I think the number he needs is 3%. But like I said, his big thing is those shields. He has his own tactical renaissance, where allies gain an extra 12% damage reduction while they have a shield. This is huge for tanks. Obviously, in pretty much any character, if you're going against AoE characters, you're going to need that shield. If you're going against poison, because it's not a heal, it's a shield, it'll help you with going against poison teams. You need a support character and a tank character, who you're probably going to have anyway. Like I said, Lex Luthor is pretty easy to get. If you go in the mother box, go down to this little head, you can see the character fusion. Right now, as I'm making this video, this is what you need. You need Superboy, Green Arrow, Gorilla Grodd, Kid Flash at rank 6 or 1 red star to get him immediately. This is changing in the next patch, though. It is becoming that you will no longer need to have these up the rank. You'll need 40 Firestorm fragments, 40 Two-Face fragments, 40 Green Arrow fragments, and 40 Grodd fragments. In other words, after you unlock those characters, if you pulled each one of those characters one more time, you'd have 40 fragments each of one of them. And then you can get Lex Luthor. Whether or not that's easier to get than, say, the Superboy, Grodd, Green Arrow, Kid Flash, is hard to say. If these character fusions remain, it might be a wash. It might be a little bit easier, it might be a little bit harder. It's really hard to say until we really see it. Unfortunately, I'm not really affected by this. I already have them unlocked, but that's something to keep in mind in the future. Obviously, Lex Luthor, in order to get his full advantage, though, does need to work with somebody. The reason why is because of number 2 on my list, Jessica Cruz. She is available to get out of pools. She is an amazing character. You really need to pair her up with Lex Luthor. If you do it right, you can make her get a ton of damage, plus you have excellent survivability with Lex Luthor. The reason why I'm saying this ton of damage comes back to her ultimate. She grants all allies a shield that can absorb damage equal to 40% of attack for 2 turns, which is nice. So you definitely want to put some attack on her. One thing about her is you don't have to care about crit once you have built her up to rank 8, which you'll see in a second. And she deals enhanced basic attack immediately, and then she takes another turn immediately. Enhanced basic attack will ignore 50% of an enemy's defense, and eventually the shield absorption will go up to 50%. Her basic, she protects her Warhammer, dealing 140% attack. Her passive, at the end of her turn, she grants an ally with the lowest proportion of hit points a shield that can absorb damage equal to 30% of attack for 2 turns. I have gotten it up to 40%. And this passive, when an ally gains a shield, the next damage dealt by herself increases by 3%. The effective stack will up to 12 times. I have it so that I've maxed her out to rank 8. This is the reason why you want to do this. Well, number 1 increases the stacks. Number 2, I've already gotten the next damage she dealt ignores 35% of the enemy's defense, which allows her to hit even harder. But the crit for the next damage dealt increases by 100%, which means she is guaranteed to crit when you have stacks 8 or more. If you see my Digital Universe Kappa video, I show you how to do that. You have to wait for 6 energy total. You immediately use Luthor's shield, and then you immediately hit her ultimate as well. So Luthor goes, with his ultimate, he shields the entire team. You immediately have her go and shield the entire team. You get like 10 stacks at that point. So you're guaranteed to crit. You have all those stacks, which each stack is 3% of her attack. So 30%. And she just hits for a ton. But like I said, you have to pull that stun off, or you have to really kind of sit back and wait. Kind of holds her back a little bit. And that's why she's number 2. Plus she needs that team. Number 1, easiest, most attainable, is Constantine. Yes, he got nerfed, but he's still incredibly amazing. Still does a ton of damage. He works best with like Zentana to help him heal, which we'll look at his skill and you'll see why he needs the heals. But the amount of damage this man can do is amazing. And he does it at any level. Unlike Green Arrow, who needs to be built up very high to do amazing damage, he just does it anyway. And the higher you build him, the more extreme his damage becomes. And you get him very easy by just logging in. You get him, but you can pull him as well. So when we look at his skill, we see why he needs the help of Zentana. When Zentana also puts some debuffs out there to make him hit even harder, because he's putting like the equivalent defense down up there. But he sacrifices 20% of his hit points. This is where having Zentana with extra lifesteal comes in handy, because he's going to hit for 175% of attack power to all enemies. He gets 10% lifesteal on his basic ability here. I have it up to where he's up to 190% damage, and he's dispelling a debuff, dispels a buff on them as well. When you talk about 190% with his attack power, which you should be stacking lots and lots of attack or crit on him, he's going to get a big heal off of it, oftentimes healing himself all the way to full when that ability goes off. Downside is it is 3 energy, so you have to remember that. Even his basic is pretty good. He deals 120% of attack. Once you level him up, it goes to 130%. The ally with the lowest attack will receive a stack weakened or a defense down, while he gains like an offense up. So obviously you want to keep building him up, and I got him up to 140%. He is my strongest character, for good reason. Passive, at the start of an ally's turn, they lose 15% of their current hit point, and they gain strong attack, and they get a heal or recover. Again, this is why you want Zentana with him, because he's going to be hurting your team as far as damage goes. But with Zentana giving life steal to everybody, it kind of helps you heal that back. Additionally, as you can see, if you level them up, you get 60%. If they're lower than 60%, you get strong attack again. You get an extra stack of that. And if they're lower than 40%, you get some shelter as well, once you have built him up more. And then his passive, when his turn ends, every third turn then, after he does the magic circle, 3 magic projectiles, it hits a random enemy. You don't get to pick it. The 65% of attack. I got it up to 75% and eventually goes to 85%. And this is right, and the amount of damage he does is just absolutely insane. Like I said, you're looking for attack and crit on him mostly, but he is definitely the best character you can get outside of a legendary, such as like a Dr. Fate, a Wonder Woman, Superman, Flash. So that's it for today. Until next time, everybody, I hope this list helps you and gives you an idea of who to build and who to work on earlier at the mid-game. Obviously, if you're in the late game, your list is going to look a bit different. Like I said, like Green Arrow starts scaling. Green Arrow at very high levels can actually outperform Constantine as far as damage. So until next time, everybody.